Hi everyone. So, welcome to the class of text analysis. In the last lecture, we talked about what is text analysis and how do you extract the data from several sources like Twitter, YouTube or any other social media for that, right. So, you have to scrap the data or extract the data in the first step, and where we used apify.com, right. Now, Apify is a very popular site and it is very helpful for extracting those data, right. So, we learned that and we even collected a data on sustainable development goals, if you remember. Now, today we will get into the next phase, that after you collect the data, what do you do next? So, that is the first step is cleaning the data. You can't put in a raw data for analysis. So, if you do that, it will contain lots of bugs and errors which is not good for any final analysis, or you can't draw any neat inference out of it. So, for this purpose, the first step that we do is text cleaning, right, and then after text cleaning, then you go for processing of the data or pre-processing of the data, right. So, in this text cleaning, what we will do is, today I will through Python, we will learn how to clean the data using Python program, right. So, if you now go to Python, you open up, you download the Python program in your computer or your desktop or your laptop, wherever you are working. So, the first thing is, in the first cell you install this code, pip install pandas lang detect autocorrect beautiful soup 4 open PyXL, and then run it. Okay. This command is used in the Python environment, like Jupyter Notebook, Google Colab, to install some of the important libraries using pip. Okay. Now, pip is nothing but a package manager, right. So, what are pandas? Pandas are basically a powerful data analysis and manipulation library used for handling structured data, right, like CSV files, Excel files, etc. Okay. Then lang detect is a language detection library that helps determine the language of a given text. And then you have autocorrect, right, as it is written in the code, you can see a library for automatic spelling correction in text. And then you have beautiful soup 4, which is a web scraping library that helps extract data from HTML and XML documents. And the last one, OpenPyXL, is a library for reading, writing and editing Excel files, that is in the .xls format, right. This command ensures these packages are installed and available for use in your Python environment. Now, if you run it and the packages are already installed, pip will either confirm they are up to date or update them if needed. Okay. Now, after this first cell, right, what and you run this, right, in the second cell, now you will have some more codes. For example, here we have import pandas as PD, import RE, from lang detect import detect, from autocorrect import speller, and from BSF4 import beautiful soap. Now, when the first line, for example, in the second cell, import pandas as PD. Now, this imports the pandas library, which is used for working with structured data like tables or spreadsheets. Okay. So, it allows you to manipulate, clean and analyze the data efficiently. Now, PD, this is a conventional alias for pandas actually. So, instead of writing pandas all the time, we write PD, right. Then import RE, in the second line of the second cell, what we have written is import RE. Now, this imports Python's built-in RE model, which provides tools for working with regular expressions. Okay. The next we have is lang detect import detect. Now, this imports the detect function from the lang detect library, which determines the language of a given text. For example, suppose there is a code written in several languages, for example, English, French, German, whatever it is, right. Suppose it is English, then it writes EN, for French FR. Okay. Now, this is useful when working with multi-language lingual text data, right. So, it helps to categorize or process the text data based on language. Then you have from autocorrect import speller. Now, this imports the speller class from the autocorrect library, now which is used for spelling correction. So, it fixes those spelling mistakes in the text, cleans it and makes it more readable, right. Then from BS4 import beautiful soap. Now, this imports the beautiful soap from the BS4 library, which is basically used for web scraping. It allows for easy extraction of the data from HTML and XML documents and makes it useful for parsing the web pages. Okay. So, after all this, then we go to the third cell. Okay. In the third cell, we give the codes spell checker, spell is equal to speller, lang is equal to en. Now, you and after writing this code, what you do is you hit it or you run it, right. Do not worry, we will give you these codes, right, in a very clear format, so that you can use it for your benefit. Only thing is that when you are working with your own files, you will have to change the file name only, right, with some very minor changes which we will explain also, so that you feel comfortable, because once I teach, then after that when you work with your own data set, you need to understand how to use my codes as well as make the necessary changes. If you do not do that, if you do not learn that, then obviously you will not be able to run the Python codes well, right, and you will not be able to conduct the text analysis. So, once you then after you write this code and you run the code, so what happens? This line initializes a spell checker using the speller class from the autocorrect library. Now, speller for example creates a spell checker for English, because EN stands for English, right. Now, it automatically corrects the spelling mistakes in words or sentences. If a word is misspelled, it suggests or replaces it with the correct spelling, right. So, these are some advantages. In the next cell, right, now we give a new code. Now, what is this code? Load the Excel file, and as it is written you can see. So, file path df is equal to pd.read. So, this is the code. Okay. Now, you run the code again. Now, when you run the code, so what happens? The Excel file is loaded, right, into a pandas data frame, right, using pd.read underscore Excel. Okay. Now, the file path, right, is defined where the Excel file is stored in the computer. This double backlashes are used because in Python a single backlash is treated as an escape character. Using double backlash ensures the file path is correctly interpreted. So, as I said, when you are writing, when you will use your own file, right, with my codes, this given codes, you have to ensure that they are given in a double backlash. Okay. So, once you do that, right, so this will create a path to the Windows system, right, and then you have the third one, which is df, right, df is equal to pd.read, this one. Now, here this means that spreadsheets rows and columns are now stored as structured data in the Python, okay, so that you can manipulate, filter, analyze or clean the data. Okay. So, once this is over, now we go for the next cell, into the next cell, and we give a code which is as given here, print the initial 10 rows and print df head, that one, right. This code prints the first 10 rows of the data frame to give an initial view of the loaded data, right. So, print displays a label to indicate what is being printed. df.head retrieves the first 10 rows of the data frame, and print df.head, this prints the retrieved rows in a structured format, right. Now, this is useful for data validation, ensuring the file loaded is correctly loaded before proceeding further. Okay. Now, we go to the next line of code in the next cell, right. Here we write the code and we run it as it is mentioned here. So, I am not reading the entire code. So, I am running the code, right. So, but what does this code mean? This code defines a function named clean text that takes a single parameter text representing a comment or text to be cleaned, okay. And then it checks if the text is missing. Suppose if the value is missing, the function returns none instead of processing it further. So, that means it will stop over there. Try starts a try except block to handle potential errors while processing text, and the next one text is text one, which converts the text to lowercase. So, we have studied in text analysis in the first week itself. So, how you have to convert, so that most of the unnecessary things are removed, so that the computer can understand it better, right. Then uses beautiful soup to remove any HTML tags and extract only the plain text. So, that is also unnecessary thing. So, we will have to remove the tags and hashtags and all those semicolons, dots, whichever is not required, we will remove it. Then text uses regular expression to remove URLs or links from the text, right. Then in this next we also remove the numbers, right, remove special characters and punctuations, and then it uses the detect function from langdec to check if the text is in English or not. If it is not in English, it returns none, ignores non-English comments. Okay. And then we splits the text into individual words, right, applies the autocorrect spell checker to each word and then joins them back with a correct sentence. It returns the clean and processed text, and if an error occurs at any point, it returns none instead of crashing. So, this is how the code is written. Okay. And finally, it applies the clean text function to each row in the comment column, stores the clean results in a new column called cleaned comments. So, you will have what in your file, you will have a new column which is called the cleaned comments, and all those after all those corrections like removing those hashtags, numbers and all these things, converting into lowercase, you will get a cleaned comment in your data file. Okay. This ensures that all the text is cleaned, standardized and ready for further analysis. Okay. Now, after you get the cleaned comment, see, now this is very important, because the first thing is that you did was you extracted the data. Now you have cleaned the data. So, you have a clean data set with you which is workable, which is usable for further analysis. Now, we go to the next line of code. Here we say print the first 10 rows after cleaning, and then we write the code completely and then we run it. Okay. Now, what is the purpose of this code? This code prints the first 10 rows of the data frame to give an initial view of the loaded data. Now, for example, print displays a label to indicate what is being printed, right, and df.head retrieves the first 10 rows of the data frame. So, for example, the head function shows the first n rows, right, default is 5 if no number is specified, remember this, and it helps in quickly inspecting the structure, column names and sample data. And then it says print df.head. Now, this prints the retrieved rows in a structured format. Okay. After you have run this code, right, you until now what you have got is a very clear data set and with a clean data, right. So, all those unnecessary things which are a waste or which is a noise, basically you call it a noise, right, they are removed from your data set. So, your data set is more refined and clean, right. Now, we go to the next cell. In the next cell, we give the code, save the clean data to a new Excel file, and we give the output path and everything, and then the print command. So, what happens here? We say output path is the text1 dot xlx, right. Suppose our text1 file, our file name is text1. So, that is the output path, right, and it defines a file path where the cleaned data frame will be saved, right. So, text1 dot xlsx is the name of the new Excel file that will store the clean data. Okay. Now, in the second step, what happens? It saves the data frame as an Excel file at the specified path. Okay. Index is equal to false ensures that pandas does not include the default index column in the saved file. This keeps the file clean and avoids unnecessary numbering in the first column. Okay. And last is the print. So, the print command gives a confirmation message indicating that the cleaned file has been successfully saved. The f string allows string interpolation, inserting the output path value into the message dynamically, and the \n adds a blank line before the message for better readability. Now, this ensures that the clean comments are stored properly and can be accessed later for further analysis or sharing. Now, with this this first part, you will get a very clean data and a clear new text Excel file with named text1, right, and this file will have all the clear data with you, and this data can later on be utilized for analyzing purpose, right. So, this is the first part of the second part. After you extract, first part was you extracted the data. So, where you went to Epify, and that is one side. You can also write codes, that is up to you, but what I feel easier, I explained that, right. And after you extracted the data, then you started cleaning the data. So, this output, this codes, I will give it to you, right? And even I will write it down in a clean format where changes are required and what changes you have to do when you have you will work with your own file. Okay, because after this class maybe several people may try to use it for the research. Somebody may do a research on sustainable development, somebody may work on, let's say, some business ideas, somebody may research on cancer. So whatever, I am just giving an example. What, so you may work on different requirements. So what changes you will have to do, only the file path has to be changed, and how you should ensure that, because if you do not write it clearly, then Python, because these are programming languages, they will not understand anything. So, they will give you errors, right. So, to avoid that, how you should go, I will explain, I will write it down and you use that. Then it will become very simple. You can use this code for n number of times. Okay. Now, you see, after all the codes have run, right, now we can see that we have got a new file which is the clear file, right. So, you go to this new file now and you can see what are the changes that have occurred. Okay. Now, it will take some time to open, maybe just a second. Okay. So, first let us see whether the same file has any data been lost or not. So, we had, if you remember, 500 comments when we collected from Apify. So, we had given a a number of comments, maximum we required was 500. That could have been changed to 1000 also, 1500, 2000 also. So, we had given 500 for our for making it easy for us. So, let us check. Yes, there are 500 now rows. Okay. So, 500 data points. Now, you see, the sum of these columns, you do not require them because they will only create noise to you and they will not add any value. For example, author, right. Now, this CID, comments count, we do not require, because comments count we knew that it was 1480. So, this 1480 is nothing but the actual comment count in the YouTube section, right. So, in that YouTube video, if you remember the TED Talks, TEDx video, there were 1480 comments, but we restricted to only 500 comments only, right. We could have taken all the 1480 also, right. We could have taken even multiple. For example, I had shown you at that time that you can add multiple URLs in there. So, 1480 this video had got, maybe some other video had more than 1480, maybe 500 or 300 or 2000. All those URLs could have been added to make it maybe 5000 like comments or something, right. So, that you can do, right. Now, after we have realized that these are some of the unnecessary columns, we will remove these columns. So, you may delete it, right. So, now even this one also you can remove. Okay. So, first one. So, now we have got basically two columns, right. We kept two columns and the first and the second one. So, the first section is the comments that we captured from the YouTube video, right. So, this 500 the original comments. Now, you look at any, go to any line or anywhere. Now, you see, for example, this one, the 31 number. So, the 31 number has got some the comma, right, some kind of things, like for example, which are not required or not understood by the the machine. So, through our coding, for example, look, let us go to 44, right, 44. Now, at the rate, right, a Dean 771, no, all power belongs to the people. So, now this has been corrected. So, the some corrections, if you see, at the rate of has been removed, right, and then it writes Dean 7711 has been removed, right, and comma has been removed. So, what it says, a Dean, no, all power belongs to the people, although it might not make sense to you, but at least the computer has cleaned it for unnecessary remarks and unnecessary things. For example, look at this one, then column 3338 years later, right. Now, here there is a gap also and then there are 3 dots. Now, these things the computer will not understand. So, the numbers have been removed and what it has corrected, years later, I am a little skeptical, right. So, because there was a apostrophe, that I and M, there was a comma. So, that was removed, right. And then you can see any other comment. Let us take, for example, let us look at 57, 57. Now, you go to say 57. So, 57, if you see, this is only numbers, right. So, it has been now cleaned completely. So, there is no data at all, right. Now, let us look at, so if you go on to the files, there will be at least some correction you will see, and you will find that this data is a much trustable or better data which is more readable, more easy to understand in comparison to the uncorrected or the raw data, right. So, this data now we will use for further analysis. What is the interpretation coming out if we use this clean comments, right, in the processing section, where we might use several tools for classification, or we might find out certain important keywords, we might use the look at the sentiments of people, we might look at the major topics evolving out of the discussion. So, all these things can be done later, but I think up to this level you are very clear that you extracted the data, then you cleaned the data using all the text analysis tools and techniques, and then finally you have got a clear better data set, and you can even make some corrections. For example, if there are missing values, you can remove those lines completely, so that there is a coherence in the data, okay, and then you can have a use it for further processing or further analysis. Okay. So, with this I will wind up today, and in the next lecture we will continue with the analysis part, how you will now analyze the data and how you will use this cleaned data for better analysis, right. So, with this I wind up here. Thank you and take care.